Welcome to the Food Shore Introduction to the Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point Process. Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point, or HACCP, is a systematic preventive approach to food safety that identifies potential food safety hazards and designs steps to control them to ensure the production of safe food. Governments and regulatory bodies require food manufacturers to follow the HACCP methodology. In the United States, 9 Code of Federal Regulations 417 dictates the HACCP requirements that are enforced by the Food and Drug Administration and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. A HACCP program essentially has two components: prerequisite programs and a HACCP plan. HACCP prerequisite programs is a set of foundational procedures and practices that create a safe and hygienic environment for food production, essential for the successful implementation of a HACCP plan. Employing prerequisite programs helps prevent food safety issues, which is a more cost-effective method than dealing with the consequences of contamination. A HACCP plan is a systematic approach to food safety that identifies, evaluates, and controls potential hazards in food production. Through early detection, the control of hazards, waste, recalls, and other costly issues can be minimized, thereby enhancing consumer confidence. A way to look at this is that prerequisite programs are the foundation that the HACCP plan and program are built on. One cannot be effective without the other. There are several components to effective HACCP prerequisite programs. They include Good Manufacturing Practices, or GMPs, which covers operational and environmental conditions, including facility design, equipment maintenance, and personal hygiene. Sanitation and hygiene programs include procedures for cleaning, microbial control, and the food safety protection from personnel and equipment infecting manufactured products. Supplier controls are established procedures for selecting and managing suppliers to ensure the quality and safety of raw materials. Pest control programs are implemented measures to prevent and eliminate the presence of pests like rodents, birds, and insects from entering the facility. Waste management ensures the proper storage and disposal of food waste and other trash to prevent product contamination. Water quality is used to maintain the quality of water used in food production, whether for cleaning or as an ingredient. Chemical controls are management methods and handling requirements for chemicals used in cleaning, sanitation, and pest control. Maintenance programs ensure regular maintenance of manufacturing equipment to prevent breakdowns and potential product contamination. Allergen management are procedures for monitoring and controlling allergens within the facility to prevent cross-contamination. Foreign material controls work to prevent the presence or introduction of foreign materials like glass, plastic, wood, or metal in food products. Storage and handling govern the packaging and treatment of raw materials and finished products through procedures to ensure their safety and quality. And training, both initial and refresher, ensures employees have the necessary knowledge on food safety measures and controls so that the prerequisite procedures are effectively implemented and followed. In developing a HACCP plan, there are 5 preliminary steps. They include assembling a HACCP team and identify the scope of the program. The team must include trained key stakeholders and departmental subject matter experts. The scope defines the product, processes, and facilities that will be covered by the HACCP plan. Next, the team will describe the product or products to be covered in the plan. This includes, at a minimum, detailing the product's composition, processing methods, packaging, and storage requirements. The third step is to identify the intended use of the product and users. This refers to how a food product is meant to be used by the end consumer. It includes specifying the types of food it will be used with, the conditions of use, like temperature or duration of contact, and the target consumer group. Step 4 is to construct a flow diagram. A flow diagram is a diagram of the sequence of movements or actions of people or things involved in a complex system or activity. This process starts by identifying all the steps in the food production process, from receiving raw materials to final product delivery. Then, visually represent these steps in a logical sequence, including inputs, processing steps, and outputs of each step of internal activities. And lastly, conduct an on-site confirmation of the flow diagram.
This involves verifying that the diagram accurately represents the actual food production process, ensuring all steps are identified by physically walking through all activities to ensure nothing was missed in the flow diagram development process. The HACCP plan development methodology is a 7-step process.
The steps are: conduct a hazard analysis,
Identify critical control points,
establish critical limits, establish a monitoring system, establish corrective actions, validate the HACCP plan and verification system, and lastly, establish a record-keeping system. Now let's delve into what each of these steps entail.
Though formats vary, the general layout of a hazard analysis has columns to record process steps, hazard types, a description of the hazard, potential impacts or risk levels, control methods, the impact on risk when hazard control measures are in place, monitoring methods, and identification of critical control points. The first step is to list out the process steps as identified on the flow diagram. Next, the hazard types will be entered for each process step.
By recording each hazard type, it will validate that each was evaluated during the assessment. Typically, all hazards, including biological, chemical, physical, and radiological, will be entered on the form. In the hazard description column, an explanation of the hazards will be detailed. Not all hazard types will apply to all steps, so if it does not apply, enter not applicable or none. For more information on hazards, find our Food Safety Hazards video by subscribing to the Food Sure training group. Once the work activities and hazards have been identified, it is time to score the risk.
Risk scoring takes place twice during a hazard analysis, once at this point, and again after controls are identified to assess the impact on eliminating or reducing the impact of the risk.
A risk scoring matrix, like the one you can see here, is typically used.
The way risk scoring is done is by evaluating the likelihood that the risk will happen, and the consequence of the event if it does happen. The likelihood is the probability of occurrence. The likelihood categories are:
almost certain, meaning it is sure to happen. Likely is almost sure to happen. Possible means it may or may not happen. Unlikely is it can happen, but not probable. Rare is unlikely to happen.
An elimination means the step, hazard or risk is completely eliminated from the possibility of occurrence due to mitigation technique utilized.
The more likely an event will happen, the more risk that is present.
The consequence is the measure of significance of the injury or illness to the consumer based on the severity of the hazard.
The consequence levels are classified as: insignificant is where the activity won't cause serious injury or illness.
Minor, the activity can cause injuries or illnesses, but only to a mild extent. Moderate, the activity can cause injury or illness that may require medical attention but with limited treatment required. Major, the activity can cause injury or illness that may require constant medical attention.
Severe activities can lead to a fatality. Here, the higher the consequence, the more dangerous the activity is. The combined risk designations are low, medium, high, and very high.
The risk score is attained by finding the corresponding box where the likelihood score column and the consequence score column cross.
For example, if the likelihood is possible and the consequence is minor, then the risk score would be medium. The next step is to determine the control methods used to prevent or mitigate the impact of the hazard. A control measure in HACCP is any action or activity that can be used to prevent, eliminate, or reduce the likelihood or consequence of a food safety hazard to an acceptable level. The typical control measures include elimination, substitution, engineering controls, administrative controls, and personal protective equipment, or PPE. Elimination makes sure the hazard no longer exists by removing it from possibly presenting itself. This is the most effective method for controlling a food safety hazard. It could be accomplished by eliminating a process step or changing a product's formula to remove a high-risk ingredient.
Substitution means changing out a material or process to replace the hazard with one with a lower likelihood or consequence.
An example would be using a different ingredient or changing a supplier to one with a better reputation for quality. Engineering controls reduce exposure by preventing hazards from making it to the finished product that will be provided to consumers.
Examples would be using a metal detector to kick off material containing metal, using magnets to collect metal, or screens to strain foreign materials.
Administrative controls change the way work is done or give workers more information by providing the workforce with relevant procedures, training, or warnings.
Increasing cooking temperatures as a microbial kill step, improving sanitation processes, or reinforcing hygiene practices are all examples of administrative controls. Lastly, personal protective equipment can be used to prevent contamination of food products.
They can include wearing hair and beard nets, donning protective clothing like smocks, the use of gloves, as well as other good manufacturing practices.
Remember, once the controls are determined, the risk level should be reassessed to determine the effect or value of the control measures in eliminating or mitigating the impact of the hazard.
Monitoring is the next principle of the HACCP process and involves establishing procedures to ensure that critical limits at critical control points, or CCPs, are consistently met.
A critical control point is a specific point or points in a food production process where hazards can be prevented, eliminated, or reduced to an acceptable level. A critical limit is a maximum or minimum value that a biological, chemical, or physical parameter must be controlled at a critical control point within a process to prevent, eliminate, or reduce a food safety hazard to an acceptable level. Monitoring methods verify that critical control points consistently meet safety limits.
They allow for early detection of potential food safety issues and prompt corrective actions.
Monitoring methods provide data points to evaluate during quality checks and compliance audits.
And this information offers insights to support a continuous improvement system. There are two general types of monitoring: continuous and periodic.
Continuous monitoring uses automated systems, like temperature sensors or automated pH meters, to record data in real time throughout the production process.
Its advantages include real-time data, reduced human error, quick identification of deviations, and consistent monitoring.
Periodic monitoring involves manual checks at set intervals, such as visual inspections or manual testing for pH. This method requires fewer resources and is suitable for processes that don't need constant oversight. Establishing corrective actions involves defining procedures to address deviations from established standards or critical limits, ensuring that problems are resolved, and preventing recurrence. The process includes identifying the root cause of the issue, taking immediate steps to correct the deviation, and implementing measures to prevent future occurrences.
Here's a more detailed breakdown.
First, identify the deviation by clearly defining what went wrong and document the specific standard, process, or critical limit that was breached.
This could involve analyzing data, reviewing records, or observing the process.
Next, correct the immediate problem by taking immediate action to bring the process back under control. This might involve adjusting equipment, reworking products, or discarding affected items. The third step is to investigate the root cause to understand why the deviation occurred in the first place. This could involve using techniques like root cause analysis to pinpoint the underlying issue.
Fourthly, implement preventive measures by taking steps to prevent the same deviation from happening again.
This might involve updating procedures, retraining staff, or modifying equipment. And lastly, document and verify by recording all corrective actions taken, including the steps taken to correct the deviation, the root cause analysis, and the preventive measures implemented.
Verify the effectiveness of the corrective actions to ensure they have addressed the issue and prevented recurrence. For more information on the root cause analysis and corrective action processes, find our root cause analysis and corrective action video by subscribing to the Food Sure Training Group.
Validating a HACCP plan means proving that it's scientifically sound and practically effective in controlling food safety hazards.
This involves demonstrating that the plan's procedures, when followed, will consistently deliver a safe product.
Validation is distinct from verification, which focuses on ensuring the plan is implemented correctly and effectively. Scientific and technical basis validation requires evidence that the HACCP plan's procedures are systematically and technically capable of controlling identified hazards.
This may involve using research, published literature, or conducting specific studies to support the chosen control measures.
Practical demonstration of the plan must be shown to work in practice through in-plant validation studies.
This involves monitoring and evaluating the effectiveness of the plan during actual production, including collecting data on temperatures, times, and other critical parameters. Documentation of all validation activities, including the scientific basis, in-plant studies, and any corrective actions taken, must be fully documented. This provides a record of the validation process and demonstrates that the HACCP plan is robust and reliable.
A reassessment of HACCP plans should be conducted periodically to ensure they remain effective, especially when changes occur in the process or ingredients.
This reassessment is a critical part of maintaining the plan's validation.
A HACCP record-keeping system is a crucial component of food safety management programs. It involves documenting all aspects of a HACCP plan, including hazard analysis, critical control points, critical limits, monitoring procedures, corrective actions, and verification activities.
These records are essential for demonstrating compliance with regulations, identifying potential problems, and ensuring food safety. Key elements of a HACCP record-keeping system include
the hazard analysis summary, which is a record of the hazards identified, the rationale for their selection, and the control measures implemented. HACCP plan, a detailed document outlining the specific steps for controlling hazards at CCPs, including critical limits, monitoring procedures, corrective actions, and verification procedures.
Monitoring records documentation of the actual measurements or observations at CCPs, including date, time, product identification, measured values, equipment identification, and operator signature.
Corrective action records documentation of actions taken when a deviation from critical limits occurs, including the issue, the corrective action taken, and the date and time of the action. And verification records documentation of the activities used to confirm the effectiveness of the HACCP plan, such as audits, calibrations, and reviews of monitoring records.
We hope you found this training valuable. Please click the subscribe button to be alerted to more food sure training offerings.